I stood at the altar in a cheap rented suit, staring at the woman my parents forced me to marry. Emma Clarke. She wore a simple white dress, no makeup, no jewelry, nothing that screamed elegance or sophistication. Just plain. She's from a small town, my mother had whispered that morning. This will teach you responsibility, Jake. Responsibility. I was 28 years old with a business degree and dreams of running a Fortune 500 company. Instead, I was here, marrying a woman I'd met exactly twice before today. The officiant droned on. I barely listened. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Probably another text from my friends mocking me. Or worse, Veronica. My ex-girlfriend had sent me a message yesterday, settling for a village girl. How the mighty have fallen. I wanted to throw my phone across the room. Do you, Jake Mitchell, take Emma Clarke to be your lawfully wedded wife? I do. The words tasted bitter. And do you, Emma Clarke, take Jake Mitchell to be your lawfully wedded husband? Emma looked at me with those calm, unreadable eyes. I do. Her voice was soft. Almost too soft. Like she didn't care either way. The ceremony ended. People clapped. I forced a smile and avoided eye contact with everyone, especially Emma. At the reception, my mother cornered me by the cake table. Be good to her, Jake. Sure, Mom. I mean it. She's a good girl. You're lucky to have her. Lucky. Right. The drive to our apartment was silent. Emma sat in the passenger seat, staring out the window like I wasn't even there. The city lights blurred past us. I gripped the steering wheel tighter than necessary. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. Look, I don't know what you expect from this marriage, but I'm not interested in playing house. I have a career to build. She turned to me slowly. Those eyes again, calm, almost detached. I understand, she said. That was it. 2 words. No argument. No tears. No anger. Just acceptance. It made me angrier somehow. Why wasn't she upset? Why wasn't she demanding more from me? Good, I muttered. As long as we're clear. She nodded and went back to looking out the window. The apartment my parents rented for us was small. 1 bedroom, a cramped kitchen, and a living room that could barely fit a couch. Emma walked in first, carrying her single suitcase. I'll take the couch, I said immediately. You don't have to do that. I want to. She didn't argue. She never argued. That night, I lay on the couch scrolling through my phone. Job postings. LinkedIn profiles. Anything to remind myself that this wasn't my real life. This was temporary. Once I landed a good job, I'd figure out a way to end this nightmare. Emma moved quietly in the bedroom. I heard the door close softly. No drama. No demands. Why did that bother me so much? 2 weeks passed. We barely spoke. Emma cooked breakfast every morning. I ate in silence, my laptop open beside my plate, scrolling through job applications. Do you want more coffee? She asked one morning. I'm fine. She nodded and went back to the kitchen. That was our routine. She cooked. She cleaned. She existed in this apartment like a ghost, present but not really there. I spent every evening applying to jobs. Sterling Tech, Apex Industries. Greenfield Solutions. Big names. Companies that would finally prove to everyone, to Veronica, to my friends, to myself, that I wasn't a failure. My mother called constantly. How's Emma? She's fine, Mom. Are you being good to her? Yes. Jake, I'm serious. She deserves respect. I know, Mom. I have to go. I didn't know. I didn't care. All I could think about was escaping this marriage and getting my life back on track. One night, Emma brought me tea while I was working on my laptop. "You don't have to do that," I said without looking up. "I know." She set the cup down gently beside me and walked away. I stared at the tea for a long moment. Steam rose from the cup, curling into the air. I didn't drink it. I felt trapped. Suffocated. This wasn't the life I wanted. This wasn't the life I deserved. But Emma never complained. She never asked for anything. And somehow, that made everything worse. 3 weeks into the marriage, my phone buzzed with an email notification. Sterling Tech interview request. I nearly jumped out of my chair. "Emma." I called out. "Emma, I got an interview." She appeared in the kitchen doorway, coffee cup in hand. "That's wonderful. Which company?" "Sterling Tech." "It's huge. This could be it." "That's great, Jake. I hope it goes well." Her smile seemed genuine, but something about her tone felt off. Too calm. Too polite. Like she was just saying what she was supposed to say. I didn't care. This was my ticket out. The next morning, I put on my best suit, the navy one I'd saved for special occasions. I checked myself in the mirror 3 times. Hair perfect. Tie straight. Shoes polished. Emma was making breakfast when I walked out. "You look professional," she said. "Thanks. Do you want me to make you something to eat before you go?" "No time. I'll grab coffee on the way." She nodded. "Good luck, Jake." I left without looking back. Sterling Tech's headquarters was everything I'd imagined. Glass and steel, reaching into the sky like a monument to success. I felt my confidence surge as I walked through the revolving doors. The receptionist directed me to the 10th floor. The HR manager, Patricia, met me in the waiting area. She was sharp, tailored suit, firm handshake, assessing eyes. "Jake Mitchell." "That's me." "Follow me, please." The interview lasted an hour. I nailed every question. My credentials spoke for themselves: business degree, internship experience, strong references. Patricia nodded approvingly throughout. "You'd be a great fit here, Jake," she said as we wrapped up. "We'll be in touch within a week. Thank you so much for this opportunity." She shook my hand again. "We'll be in contact soon." I walked out of that building feeling like I'd finally turned a corner. This was it. My real life was about to begin. When I got home, Emma was reading in the living room. Some thick book I'd never heard of. "How did it go?" she asked, setting it down. "Perfect. Absolutely perfect. They loved me. I'm happy for you, Jake." There it was again. That look in her eyes. Something I couldn't quite identify. Not jealousy. Not doubt. Just, something. "What?" I asked. "Nothing. I really am happy for you." I shrugged it off. She probably didn't understand the corporate world. How could she? 7 days later, the email came. "Dear Mr. Mitchell, thank you for your interest in Sterling Tech. After careful consideration, we've decided to move forward with other candidates." I read it 3 times. Then I slammed my laptop shut. No. No, this doesn't make sense. Emma looked up from her book. "Jake. What happened?" "They rejected me. Sterling Tech rejected me." "I'm sorry. I nailed that interview. Patricia said I was a great fit. Maybe they had internal candidates." "Don't." I held up my hand. "Just don't." I threw myself into applications. 5 more companies within a week. Apex Industries. Greenfield Solutions. Summit Ventures. Horizon Corporation, Pinnacle Enterprises. All major players. All companies that could change my life. The interviews came one after another. Each time, I prepared meticulously. Each time, I walked out confident. And each time, the rejection email arrived like clockwork. Thank you for your interest, moved forward with other candidates, we wish you the best. Generic. Cold. Identical. I started checking my resume obsessively. Was there a typo? Were my references sabotaging me? What was I missing? One evening, I sat at the kitchen table, staring at my laptop screen until the words blurred together. 6 rejections. 6 perfect interviews. 6 failures. Emma sat down across from me. She didn't say anything at first, just watched me with those quiet eyes. Maybe it's not about you, she finally said. What? I snapped, not looking up. Maybe it's just not the right time. Sometimes things happen for a reason. I laughed bitterly. Easy for you to say. You don't have ambitions. The words hung in the air like poison. Her expression didn't change, but I saw it, just for a second, the hurt that flashed across her face. She stood up slowly, pushed her chair back without making a sound. Emma, I didn't mean. But she was already walking toward the bedroom. The door closed softly behind her. Not a slam. Just a quiet, definitive click. I sat there alone, staring at my laptop screen. Another rejection email had just arrived. Number 7. 2 months into the marriage, I'd been rejected by 15 companies. 15. I sat at my laptop, staring at the latest rejection email from a tech startup I'd been certain would hire me. My hands shook as I closed the browser. Something was wrong. This wasn't normal. I picked up my phone and called Marcus. We'd gone to university together, and he worked in corporate recruiting now. If anyone could help me figure this out, it was him. Marcus, I need a favor. Jake, hey. What's up? Can we meet? I need you to look into something for me. There was a pause. Yeah, sure. How about coffee tomorrow? Today. Please. Another pause. Okay. The usual place. 2 o'clock. I got to the coffee shop early and ordered a black coffee I didn't drink. When Marcus walked in, he looked uncomfortable before he even sat down. Thanks for meeting me, I said. Of course, man. He sat across from me, fidgeting with his phone. So, what's going on? I've been rejected by 15 companies in 2 months. 15, Marcus. My credentials are solid. My interviews go well. And then, nothing. Just rejections. He nodded slowly. Yeah, that's not normal. Can you look into it? See if something's flagged on my profile or if I've been blacklisted somehow. Sure. Give me a few days. 3 days later, Marcus called me back. Coffee. Now. My stomach dropped. That bad? Just meet me. When I arrived, Marcus was already there, looking worse than before. He had dark circles under his eyes. All right, I said, sitting down. What did you find? He leaned forward, lowering his voice. Jake, I asked around. Quietly. Nobody's saying anything directly, but there's definitely a pattern. What kind of pattern? All the companies that rejected you, they're all connected somehow. Board members, investors, parent companies. It's like a web. My blood ran cold. Connected how? I don't know exactly. But it's too consistent to be coincidence. It's like someone's making calls. Putting in a word against you. Who would do that? Marcus shrugged helplessly. That's what I can't figure out. Do you have enemies? An ex-boss who hates you? Someone with serious influence. I thought back through my career. I'd left my last job on good terms. I'd never screwed anyone over. Never burned bridges. What about personal? Marcus asked. Ex-girlfriend? Family drama? Veronica's face flashed in my mind. My ex's father works at some investment firm. Regional VP, I think. But that seems like a stretch. We broke up months before I even got married. What's his name? Richard something. I don't remember his last name. Marcus made a note on his phone. I'll see what I can find. But Jake, whoever this is, they have serious reach. Multiple companies across different sectors. That's not amateur hour. I felt sick. When I got home, Emma was in the kitchen cooking dinner. The smell of garlic and herbs filled the small apartment. She moved with that same quiet efficiency that always unnerved me. I watched her for a moment from the doorway. Do you know anyone in the business world? I asked suddenly. She turned, surprised. A wooden spoon hung in her hand. What? Do you have connections? Family and business? She paused. Set down the spoon. Why do you ask? Just curious. No, Jake. I don't have connections in business. Why? I shook my head. No reason. Just wondering. She studied me for a moment, those calm eyes searching my face. Then she turned back to the stove. Dinner will be ready in 20 minutes. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed. I'd eventually moved from the couch to the bedroom, though we barely acknowledged each other, staring at the ceiling. Emma slept peacefully beside me, her breathing soft and steady. Who was she? I realized I knew almost nothing about her. My mother had arranged this marriage through Mrs. Patterson, some family friend who supposedly knew Emma's family. But I'd never met any of them. No parents at the wedding. No siblings. No cousins. Emma never talked about her past. Never mentioned where she grew up, what she did before we married, who her friends were. She was like a ghost. Present but not really there. The next morning, after Emma left for her morning walk, I opened my laptop. I typed Emma Clarke into the search bar. Generic social media profiles popped up. Facebook accounts with no photos. LinkedIn profiles that could have been anyone. Nothing specific. Nothing real. I tried adding business to the search. Then investor. Then entrepreneur. Nothing. It was like she didn't exist before our marriage. I sat back, my mind racing. Marcus's words echoed in my head, someone with serious reach. Multiple companies. That's not amateur hour. I looked at the closed bedroom door. No. That was crazy. Emma was just a quiet woman from a small town. She cooked dinner and read books and lived a simple life. Wasn't she? I was having another terrible day when I decided to stop at a coffee shop downtown. Rejection number 17 had arrived that morning, and I needed to clear my head before I threw my laptop through a window. The place was busy, businesspeople in suits, students with laptops, the usual crowd. I ordered a black coffee and stood by the counter waiting. That's when I heard them. Two men in expensive suits sat at the table directly behind me, their conversation carrying over the ambient noise. Did you hear? Emma Clarke acquired another 20% stake in Horizon Corporation. I froze, my hand halfway to my coffee cup. She's unstoppable, the other man said. Between Sterling, Summit, and Greenfield, she's building an empire. And she's only 26. Incredible. Emma Clarke. My throat went dry. It had to be a coincidence. Clarke was a common last name. There were probably hundreds of Emma Clarkes in this city alone. But something gnawed at me. Something cold and sharp in my gut. I turned around. "Excuse me," I said. Both men looked up, surprised. "Sorry to interrupt, but the Emma Clarke you're talking about, what does she do exactly?" One of them, an older man with silver hair, raised an eyebrow. "She's an investor." "Why do you ask?" "Just curious." The younger one leaned back in his chair. "She made her first million at 21. Turned it into 100 million by 25. Now she's one of the biggest players in tech and finance." My heart pounded against my ribs. Do you know what she looks like?" The silver-haired man pulled out his phone, tapped a few times, then turned the screen toward me. The world tilted sideways. It was her. My wife. Emma. My Emma. Except she wasn't standing in our tiny apartment wearing worn jeans and a t-shirt. She was in a sleek navy business suit, standing in front of Sterling Tech's glass headquarters, smiling confidently at the camera. The headline read, "Emma Clarke, the young mogul quietly dominating corporate America." "You okay, buddy?" one of the men asked. I couldn't answer. I couldn't breathe. I stumbled out of the coffee shop, nearly knocking over a chair on my way to the door. The drive home was a blur. My hands shook on the steering wheel. My mind raced through every conversation, every interaction, every moment of the past 2 months. The woman who cooked me breakfast. Who cleaned our apartment. Who I'd dismissed as some village girl. She was a multimillionaire investor. She owned stakes in Sterling Tech. In Greenfield Solutions. In Summit Ventures. In every company that had rejected me. When I pulled into our parking spot, I sat in the car for 5 minutes, trying to steady my breathing. Finally, I got out and walked to the apartment. Emma was on the balcony, watering the small plants she'd bought last week. She wore faded jeans and a simple white shirt. Her hair was pulled back in a ponytail. She looked so ordinary. So unremarkable. "Emma." My voice came out shaky. She turned, setting down the watering can. "Hey. You're home early. We need to talk." Something in my tone made her pause. "Okay." I walked inside, pulled out my phone, and opened the article. My hands were still trembling as I held it up to her. "Is this you?" She glanced at the screen. Her expression didn't change. "Yes. Yes." My voice rose. "That's all you have to say?" "Yes." "What do you want me to say, Jake? How about the truth? How about telling me why you've been lying to me for 2 months?" She walked inside and closed the balcony door behind her. "I never lied to you. You let me think you were nobody. You let me treat you like," I couldn't finish the sentence. "Like what? Like a village girl?" Her eyes hardened for the first time since I'd known her. "You made up your mind about who I was the moment we met. You never asked about my life, my interests, my work. You never wanted to know anything about me. Because you never told me. You never asked, Jake. Not once." The words hit me like a punch. She continued, her voice steady. "You decided I was beneath you based on how I looked at our wedding. You treated me like a maid in my own home. Why would I share anything with someone who already dismissed me as worthless? So this is some kind of game to you?" My anger flared hot and desperate. "You've been blocking my job applications, haven't you?" She didn't deny it. "You've been sabotaging me. I wanted to see how long it would take for you to realize." "Realize what?" "That respect isn't something you earn with a title or a salary, Jake." Her voice was quiet but sharp. "It's something you give to people regardless of who you think they are. You failed that test the moment you said, 'I do.'" I stared at her. This woman. This stranger I'd married. "Who are you?" I whispered. "Someone you never bothered to find out." I couldn't sleep that night. Emma had gone to bed without another word, leaving me alone in the living room with my laptop and the wreckage of my pride. I spent hours reading about her online. Emma Clarke, founder and CEO of Clarke Ventures. Started with a small inheritance from her grandmother at age 21. Turned $50,000 into her first million within 18 months through strategic tech investments. By 25, she'd built a portfolio worth over $100 million. She owned stakes in sterling tech Greenfield Solutions, Summit Ventures, Horizon Corporation, Pinnacle Enterprises. Every single company that had rejected me. The articles praised her intelligence, her vision, her quiet approach to business. She doesn't seek the spotlight, one journalist wrote. She lets her results speak for themselves. I closed my laptop at 3 a.m, feeling hollow. When I woke up on the couch, Emma was already in the kitchen making coffee. The smell filled the apartment. I sat down at the table, exhausted and numb. "Why did you agree to marry me?" She poured herself a cup and sat across from me. Her face was calm, like we were discussing the weather. "Your mother and Mrs. Patterson are old friends of my grandmother. When your mother reached out looking for someone to settle you down, Mrs. Patterson suggested me." "But why?" I leaned forward. "You could marry anyone. Movie stars. CEOs. Why some arrogant guy who treated you like garbage?" She took a sip of coffee. "My grandmother always said that wealth shows you who people really are. She told me before she died that I needed to find someone who would love me for myself, not my money. So this was a test. I wanted to see if you were different from all the others, the men who only wanted me for my money, who saw dollar signs instead of a person. And..." Her smile was sad. "You weren't different, Jake. You were worse." The words hit me like a physical blow. "At least the others pretended to care," she continued. "They took me on dates, asked about my day, showed basic human decency. You couldn't even do that. Emma. I gave you every opportunity to see me as a person. I cooked for you. Tried to talk to you. Supported your job search. But you couldn't see past your own ego. I felt sick. So you sabotaged me." "I didn't sabotage you." Her voice remained steady. "I simply made sure you didn't get hired at companies I had influence over. I wanted you to succeed on your own merit somewhere else. But you kept applying to my companies, over and over, never questioning why. Never looking beyond the biggest names. Because those were the best companies. They were my companies, Jake. And you were so focused on status and prestige that you never thought to apply anywhere else. There are hundreds of good companies in this city. But you only wanted the ones that would make you look impressive." I had no response. She stood up. "What now?" "Now." She walked to the counter and picked up a manila envelope I hadn't noticed. "I'm filing for divorce. I've already had the papers drawn up." "Divorce? You'll get nothing, as per the prenup you signed without reading." My stomach dropped. "What prenup?" "The papers you signed before the wedding. You remember, you barely glanced at them before scribbling your signature." I had signed papers. Multiple documents. I'd assumed they were marriage certificates, maybe insurance forms. I hadn't read a single page. You planned this from the beginning?" "I planned for the possibility. I'm not stupid, Jake." The door to the apartment opened. My mother walked in, using the spare key I'd forgotten she had. Her face was serious, almost grim. "Jake, we need to talk." I looked between Emma and my mother. "You knew. You knew who she was." My mother closed the door behind her. "Sit down." "I don't want to sit down." "Did you know?" "Yes." Her voice was firm. I knew exactly who Emma was when I arranged this marriage. The betrayal cut deeper than anything Emma had done. "Why? Why would you do this to me?" Because you needed to learn a lesson. My mother's eyes were hard. And clearly, even now, you still haven't learned it. Emma set down her coffee cup. I'm going to pack some things. I'll stay at my penthouse until the divorce is finalized. You can keep this apartment for now. She walked past me toward the bedroom. I sat there, frozen, as my mother pulled out a chair and sat down across from me. Start talking, I said. Tell me everything. My mother sat down across from me, looking more ashamed than I'd ever seen her. Her hands were clasped tightly on the table. Jake, I need to tell you something. About the marriage. I heard Emma moving in the bedroom, gathering her things. The sound of drawers opening and closing. I knew who Emma was, my mother said quietly. Mrs. Patterson told me everything. I stared at her. You knew? Yes. You knew she was rich? That she owned half the companies in this city? Yes. My hands curled into fists. How long? From the beginning. Before I even suggested the marriage to you. Why? The word came out strangled. Why would you do that to me? Because I thought if you married someone like her, someone with real substance, you'd finally grow up. You'd become the man I raised you to be. So you lied to me. You both lied to me. Her eyes flashed. We didn't lie, Jake. We just didn't correct your assumptions. That's the same thing. Is it? She leaned forward. Did anyone tell you Emma was poor? Uneducated? From some backwards village? I opened my mouth. Closed it. You assumed all of that, my mother continued, because she didn't dress in designer clothes or brag about herself. That was your prejudice, not our deception. The words hit like stones. Why would Emma agree to this? I asked. To marry someone who didn't even want her. My mother's eyes welled up. Because she's a better person than you gave her credit for. She hoped you'd see past the surface. That you'd value character over status. But you didn't. I didn't know. You didn't want to know. There's a difference. Emma emerged from the bedroom, carrying a small suitcase. She'd changed into different clothes, still simple, still understated, but somehow I saw her differently now. I'm going to stay at my penthouse downtown, she said quietly. The divorce papers will be ready next week. You can stay here until the lease ends. She walked toward the door. For the first time, I saw her clearly. Not as the village girl I'd imagined. Not as the obstacle to my perfect life. But as the woman she actually was. Strong. Dignified. Far too good for me. Emma, wait. She stopped, her hand on the doorknob. But she didn't turn around. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I was an idiot. Yes, you were. Please, can we talk about this? She turned then, and I saw something in her eyes. Not anger. Not even disappointment. Just exhaustion. What is there to talk about, Jake? I could change. I could be better. Sorry doesn't fix everything. Her voice was soft but final. You taught me that, actually. People don't change unless they lose something valuable. Maybe losing me will finally teach you something. She opened the door and left. The sound of it closing echoed through the apartment. My mother stood up. She's right, you know. I couldn't look at her. I tried to give you a gift, she said. A chance to be with someone extraordinary. And you threw it away because she didn't fit your idea of what success should look like. Mom. I'm disappointed in you, Jake. Not because you failed. But because you didn't even try. She left too. I sat alone in the apartment for hours. The place that had felt like a prison now felt empty. Hollow. I looked around at the small kitchen where Emma had cooked meals I barely thanked her for. The living room where she'd sat reading while I ignored her. The bedroom where she'd slept beside me while I dreamed of escape. I'd lost something I didn't even know I had. Over the next few days, I withdrew from all my pending job applications. Every single one. I couldn't stomach the idea of applying to companies Emma owned, waiting for her to decide my fate. Instead, I started looking at smaller firms. Startups. Companies where I could actually earn my position instead of demanding it. For the first time in my life, I had to face who I really was. An arrogant, shallow person who judged others based on appearances and status. I'd wanted a trophy wife who looked good at corporate events. Instead, I'd married a woman with more substance and success than I could ever achieve. And I'd treated her like she was worthless. The irony wasn't lost on me. 6 months after Emma left, I was a different person. I'd landed a job at a small tech startup called Greenfield Solutions. The salary was half what I'd expected to earn, what I'd dreamed about during those nights staring at my laptop. But I was happy. I worked hard. Stayed late. Proved myself through actual results instead of credentials and arrogance. Slowly, I climbed the ladder. Junior developer to mid-level in 4 months. I stopped comparing myself to others and focused on being better than I was yesterday. But I thought about Emma constantly. I'd see her name in business magazines at the grocery store checkout. Emma Clarke closes deal with international tech conglomerate. Clarke Ventures expands into Asian markets. She was everywhere, succeeding beyond imagination, while I was starting from scratch. I was happy for her. And I hated myself for what I'd lost. One evening, my boss asked me to attend a networking event downtown. Good for company visibility, he said. Plus, free food. I almost said no. These events reminded me too much of the person I used to be, the one who saw networking as social climbing instead of genuine connection. But I went. The venue was upscale. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Well-dressed people holding wine glasses and business cards. I got a drink and lingered near the edge of the room, talking to a few people from other startups. Then I saw her. Emma stood across the room, talking to a group of investors. She wore a navy blue suit that looked expensive but understated. Her hair was styled differently, more professional. She looked confident. Radiant. She looked like she belonged in that world. Because she did. My first instinct was to leave. Just walk out before she saw me. But something made me stay. When the investors moved on and she was alone for a moment, checking her phone, I walked over. Hi. She looked up, surprised. Jake. Hi, I said again, suddenly nervous. How are you? She composed herself quickly. I'm well. How are you? I'm better. I wanted to thank you. For what? For showing me who I really was. I didn't like what I saw, so I changed. She studied me carefully, those calm eyes searching my face. That's good to hear. I got a job. A real one, that I earned. It's at a small startup, Greenfield Solutions. Not glamorous, but it's mine. A small smile crossed her face. I'm proud of you, Jake. Those words meant more to me than any job offer ever could. I also wanted to apologize, I continued. Really apologize. Not because I want something from you, but because you deserved better than how I treated you. I appreciate that. You were right about everything. I was arrogant. Shallow. I judged you based on appearances and made assumptions about who you were without ever bothering to actually know you. Jake. No, let me finish. Please. I took a breath. You gave me every opportunity to see you as a person. You cooked for me, tried to talk to me, supported me even when I was being an ass. And I treated you like you were invisible. Like you were beneath me. She was quiet for a moment. Thank you for saying that. It doesn't fix anything. No, but it matters. Her expression softened slightly. Growth matters. We stood there in awkward silence for a moment. So, she said. Tell me about Vertex Solutions. We talked for the next few minutes. She asked about my work, genuinely interested, and I told her about the projects I was working on, the team, the challenges. Then she told me about her latest acquisition. A clean energy startup with promising technology. She talked about it with passion, with intelligence, with the kind of depth I'd never bothered to notice before. It was strange. Talking to her like an actual person. Seeing her intelligence and kindness clearly for the first time. Seeing everything I'd missed. Other people approached her throughout our conversation, investors wanting her attention, colleagues greeting her. Each time, she politely acknowledged them but returned to our conversation. It felt like respect. Like she actually valued talking to me. When it was time for her to leave, I walked with her toward the exit. Emma, I said. I know I don't deserve another chance. But if you ever want to grab coffee, as friends, I'd like that. She stopped at the door, considering. Maybe someday. It wasn't a yes. But it wasn't a no either. I'll take maybe, I said. She smiled, a real smile this time. Goodbye, Jake. Goodbye. I watched her leave, then stood there for a moment, processing what had just happened. As I walked to my car, I realized something important. I'd finally learned the lesson she'd been trying to teach me all along. Success wasn't about titles or money. It wasn't about working at prestigious companies or impressing people who didn't matter. It was about character. Respect. Treating people with dignity regardless of who you thought they were. And maybe, just maybe, I was finally becoming someone worthy of a woman like Emma Clarke. 1 year after the divorce, my startup got acquired. I'd worked my way up to senior developer at Vertex Solutions. Earned the respect of my colleagues through actual work, not just talk. Finally felt like I'd found my place in the world. The acquisition was huge for us. It meant stability, growth, opportunities we'd only dreamed about. My boss called a company meeting. I'm excited to announce that we've been acquired by Clarke Ventures. My heart stopped. Clarke Ventures. Emma's company. I should have known. She'd been watching my progress the whole time. Later, I learned she'd invested in Vertex 6 months ago through a shell company. I'd never known. The acquisition meeting was held at her downtown office. The building was everything I'd imagined, sleek, modern, successful. When I walked into the conference room, Emma sat at the head of the table in a charcoal suit, looking every bit the powerful executive she was. Our eyes met briefly. Jake, she said professionally. Emma. I took my seat with the rest of the Vertex team. Throughout the meeting, she was impressive, confident, articulate, commanding respect without demanding it. After the formalities, she addressed me directly. Jake, could I speak with you privately? Of course. Her office was massive. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the entire city. I could see our old apartment building from here, a tiny speck in the distance. Why? I asked as soon as the door closed. Why what? Why invest in my company? Why acquire us? She leaned against her desk. Because you were finally working on something real. You weren't chasing status or trying to prove something to people who didn't matter. You were building something meaningful. You could have told me. Would you have accepted the investment if you'd known it was from me? I thought about it. My pride 6 months ago. The person I was still becoming. No, I admitted. Probably not. She nodded. That's why I didn't tell you. You needed to succeed on your own terms. I looked at her, really looked at her. The strength in her posture. The wisdom in her eyes. The quiet power that didn't need to announce itself. All the things I'd missed before. I've changed, I said. I know. I've been watching. Is there any chance, any possibility that we could start over? Not as the people we were, but as who we are now. She was quiet for a long moment. The city stretched out behind her, bathed in afternoon light. Jake, you broke my heart. I know. Not because you didn't love me. We barely knew each other. But because you made me feel invisible. Worthless. Just because I didn't fit your image of success. I know. And I'll regret that for the rest of my life. She stood up and walked to the window, her back to me. I don't know if I can trust you again. Then let me earn it. No shortcuts. No expectations. Just let me show you I'm different. The silence stretched between us. Finally, she turned to face me. For the first time in a year, I saw something soften in her eyes. One coffee, she said. What? One coffee. That's all I'm promising. I smiled. Relief flooded through me. One coffee is enough. Next week. Tuesday. The cafe near your office. I'll be there. She walked me to the door. Jake. Yeah. Don't make me regret this. I won't. I promise. As I left her office and walked through the gleaming corridors of Clarke Ventures, I realized the journey had come full circle. I'd started as an arrogant man who thought he deserved success just for existing. Who judged people by their appearance and dismissed anyone who didn't fit my narrow definition of worth. Now, I was someone who understood that respect, love, and success were things you earned through character, not status. I'd lost Emma because I couldn't see her value when she stood right in front of me. But maybe, just maybe, I'd get one more chance to prove I'd finally learned the lesson she'd been trying to teach me all along. One coffee. It was more than I deserved. And I wouldn't waste it. The end.